Hello, America! Tonight we're diving into the exciting world of grocery prices. I know, hold your applause. It's not exactly a laugh riot, but trust me, this is important. You see, thanks to some new tariffs, your next trip to the supermarket is about to get a whole lot pricier. We're talking about those taxes on imported goods, folks. The ones that former President Trump slapped on a bunch of countries. Remember those? Well, they're back, baby. And this time, they're coming for your wallet, through your grocery basket. So, how exactly do these tariffs work? Basically, they make it more expensive for businesses to import goods from other countries. And guess what? A lot of our food comes from those other countries. Now, those businesses, they're not just going to eat that extra cost. Oh no, they're passing it right along to you, the consumer. And let's be clear, this isn't some minor price bump we're talking about. Experts are predicting a significant increase in the cost of groceries. Yale University's Budget Lab estimates a 2.8% overall food price increase, with fresh produce rising by a whopping 4%. That might not sound like a lot, but trust me, it adds up. Especially if you're already struggling to put food on the table. For many families, every dollar counts, and these price hikes can mean the difference between a full pantry and going without. It's a ripple effect that starts with tariffs and ends at your dinner table. So next time you're at the store, remember, those higher prices aren't just numbers on a tag. They're a direct result of policies that impact us all. Now you might be thinking, John, how do these tariffs actually affect the price of my Cheerios? It's a fair question, and the answer is a bit more complex than you might expect. Well, buckle up, Buttercup, because it's time for a crash course in global economics. Tariffs are like taxes on imported goods, and they can ripple through the entire supply chain. First, we need to understand that the food supply chain is a complex web. It starts with the farmers who grow the raw ingredients. It involves farmers, manufacturers, distributors, and retailers all working together, or sometimes not so much, to get that box of sugary goodness from the field to your pantry. Each step in this chain is crucial. When a tariff is imposed on an imported ingredient, like sugar for example, the cost of that ingredient goes up for the manufacturer. This increase can be significant. The manufacturer then has to decide whether to absorb that cost, spoiler alert, they usually don't, or pass it along to the distributor. This decision impacts the entire chain. The distributor, facing their own increased costs, does the same thing to the retailer. They too have to make tough choices. And finally, the retailer, left with no other choice, raises the price you see on the shelf. This is the final link in the chain. It's a vicious cycle of cost passing. And guess who ends up holding the bag? That's right, you, the consumer who just wants to buy some groceries. That's right, you, the hungry consumer. So next time you see those higher prices, remember the journey your food has taken. So, which foods are going to be hit the hardest by these tariffs? Well, anything that relies heavily on imported ingredients or comes from countries directly affected by the tariffs. And, unfortunately for our taste buds, that's a pretty long list. Let's start with seafood. The US imports a staggering 80% of its seafood. That's right, 80%. So if you're a fan of shrimp scampi, sushi, or fish and chips, get ready to shell out some serious dough. Next up, coffee. That's right, your morning cup of joe is also on the chopping block. We import a whopping 80% of our coffee beans, so those lattes and cappuccinos are about to get a whole lot more expensive. And don't even get me started on fruit. We're talking bananas, mangoes, pineapples, you name it. The US imports about 59% of its fresh fruit. So if you're used to enjoying a variety of flavors, be prepared to make some tough choices at the grocery store. Now here's the thing about these tariffs. They don't affect everyone equally. While some businesses can weather the storm, others are left grappling with the consequences. Large corporations like Walmart and Costco, they have the buying power to negotiate better prices and absorb some of the increased costs. Their vast resources allow them to stay competitive, but smaller grocers and food producers, they don't have that luxury. They operate on much thinner margins and can't easily absorb these additional costs. Imagine you're a small family-owned grocery store. You've been serving your community for generations, offering fair prices and quality products. Your customers trust you and rely on you. Suddenly your suppliers are hitting you with massive price hikes because of these tariffs. What do? The choices are tough. You can try to absorb the costs yourself, but that will likely mean cutting into your already thin profit margins. This could jeopardize the sustainability of your business. You can try to find new suppliers, but that takes time and resources you might not have. The search for reliable and affordable suppliers can be daunting. Or, you can raise your prices and risk losing customers to the big box stores that can afford to keep their prices lower. It's a no-win situation. The competition is fierce. And it's not just the small grocers who are hurting. Small food producers, the ones who make your favorite artisanal cheeses, craft beers, and locally sourced snacks, they're also feeling the squeeze. Their unique products are at risk. They rely on imported ingredients or packaging, and they simply can't compete with the economies of scale of the big guys. The playing field is far from level. Section 5. Empty plates and tight budgets. Consumers feel the pinch. Okay, so we've established that tariffs are bad for businesses. But what about the average consumer? How are these price hikes going to affect you and me? Well, for starters, be prepared to see your grocery bill go up. Way up. Remember that 2.8% overall increase we talked about earlier? That translates to an extra $20 or $30 per month for the average family. And if you're on a tight budget, that extra expense can make a huge difference. But it's not just about the extra money. It's about the choices you'll have to make. Do you buy the cheaper, lower quality food? Do you cut back on fresh produce and rely more on processed foods? Do you skip meals altogether? These are the tough decisions that families across America are already facing. And with these new tariffs, the situation is only going to get worse. Section 6. From brand names to bargain bins, shifting spending habits. So, how are people coping with these rising grocery prices? Well, they're getting creative, that's for sure. One of the most common strategies is switching to cheaper brands. Remember that name brand cereal you love? Yeah, well, get ready to say hello to its generic cousin. It might not taste as good, but hey, at least it won't break the bank. Another tactic is cutting back on non-essential items. That fancy imported cheese you like to snack on? Gone! Those organic, gluten-free crackers? See you later. People are prioritizing staples like rice, beans, and pasta, and leaving the luxury items on the shelves. And then there's the extreme couponing. We're talking about those folks who spend hours clipping coupons, scouring flyers, and strategizing their shopping trips to save every last penny. It's a full-time job, but for some families, it's the only way they can afford to put food on the table. Section 7. The U.S. on a diet, our dependence on imported food. Now you might be wondering, why do we even import so much food in the first place? Can't we just grow everything ourselves? Well, it's not that simple. You see, the U.S. relies on a global supply chain for a reason. We can't grow certain crops year-round due to our climate. We don't have the land or resources to produce everything we consume. And let's be honest, sometimes it's just cheaper to import food from other countries. For example, those bananas we love so much, they mostly come from Central and South America, where the climate is perfect for growing them. And that coffee we can't live without? It's mainly imported from South America, Africa, and Asia. So, while it's great to support local farmers and buy American-made products, the reality is that we depend on other countries to supplement our food supply. And when those countries are hit with tariffs, we all feel the pain. Section 8. A bitter aftertaste. The long-term impacts of trade wars. Well, folks, there you have it. The not-so-pretty picture of how tariffs are impacting grocery prices and ultimately your wallets. But the real kicker is this. These price hikes are just the tip of the iceberg. The long-term impacts of these trade wars could be far more devastating. When we erect barriers to trade, we disrupt global supply chains, hurt businesses, and raise costs for everyone. It's a lose-lose situation. So, what can you do about it? Well, for starters, stay informed. Read up on the issue, talk to your friends and family, and let your elected officials know how you feel. Because the only way to stop these harmful policies is to make our voices heard. And in the meantime, be kind to your local grocery store workers. They're not the ones who created this mess, they're just trying to navigate it, one price hike at a time.
If you would like to see more videos like this one, subscribe and hit the bell. We post videos like this one every Monday and Thursday. Stay curious, stay informed, and we'll see you in the next video.